Do I pass? Do you pass? Does she pass? Does he pass? Do they pass? What about the cisgender person? Do they pass? Let's talk about passing culture. Asked by this person here. Now, I feel that passing isn't just a transgender issue, it's a human issue. Just look at Hollywood and how they have the perfect faces. They might get a nose job or a breast augmentation, work out in the gym, have some sort of diet, and keeps their body in line exactly the way they want to look. Anything to make themselves look pretty. And among the reasons they do this is because their popularity, talent, and bodily autonomy all work hand in hand. Regular, ordinary people like you and me embody the same ideas. The way you look, your makeup, how you dress, and what you dress in, the way you walk and the way you talk, everything is connected to how people see and perceive you. And it's everything. In addition to the Hollywood example, pretty, handsome, or just genuinely physically appealing people who glide through life so much easier than someone who, by today's beauty standards, would not be considered aesthetically pleasing. So in order to not offend anyone, I'm just going to leave you this bit to kind of conjure up in your brain. Think of all the kinds of people you wouldn't want to be following you. Now let's apply that to transgender humans. A trans woman who, for better or worse terms, doesn't pass as a woman is way more likely to just be called a man, with the reasoning being anything under the sun, from starting HRT way too late, which isn't surefire, you can still have great results when you start later. If she has problems shaving or has a darker hair color, if her hair is thinning or balding, is just really tall or has a hard time getting her voice into a higher pitch, just not having money to transition more than hormones. And by modern beauty standards, if a trans woman has one or more of these boxes checked, then the world has already decided that she is not pretty. And the term pretty is in direct correlation of passing status. And therefore, if you're not considered pretty, people might just call you a man. And that's reality for us. And further understanding, the level of prettiness that a trans woman has is directly linked to how, quote unquote, how much we look just like the other women. Pretty trans girls have much more privilege over uglier trans girls. Using the women's restroom is usually a non-issue. Because she looks good, she's not attracting any unwanted attention, and therefore people aren't staring her down. And therefore she's able to glide under the radar. And this has a term in the transgender community. It's called living stealth. And then there's people who have had all the surgeries, who have had the hormones, who've done all these things to change their life, to change their presentation, and yet they still get carded as the gender they were born as. They still get misgendered no matter what they do. In short, the answer is yes. If you are a transgender woman and you pass as a cisgender woman, or vice versa, if you are a transgender man and you pass as a cisgender man, your life is easier. And a huge chunk of passing has to do with your confidence. And it starts the moment that you put your feet on the ground when you wake up in the morning. It has to do with your clothes and your hair and your makeup. It's the way you talk and move around and converse and going up and down in pitch and little variations in your voice. That is very important. Not sounding raspy, which sometimes I do believe I get to that point. And also not having what I consider to be a princess voice, where your voice is just way up there, of which you're just trying to convey and have your voice as high as possible so it's like a cartoon character. Just the most bored person in the world. And when it comes to non-transgender people or cisgender people, whatever you prefer, these standards are also kept. It's something we know in our being if someone is approachable to us in the first place, or if there's someone we want to run away from. It's how we can tell if someone is making us uncomfortable just by speaking, if they're gliding while they're walking, or if it seems like they're walking with their knees, because there's a difference. And finally, it comes down to a lot of what is considered gender stereotypes, what they believe that men and women should look like, sound like, dress like, and be like. But a lot gets lost when we're using these archaic standards for gender presentation. Especially when someone sees someone who doesn't fit those standards. People genuinely see short hair and think masculine, and see long hair and see feminine. Having facial hair as a feminine presenting person, and having boobs as a masculine presenting person. Being a really tall woman, being a very short man who has a high voice, having your hair colored anything other than what's considered natural, having a septum piercing. All these things throw people off. They scream red flag, red flag, red flag to someone who is only used to the binary. It becomes a point of being discriminated, applied to transgender people heavily, and being denied certain things in life. And in America, it very much depends on the state you live in. We trans people are very aware of all these standards. Every single person who is passing now as a trans individual at some point in the past was not that way. We've all at one point been in that very middle ground as far as gender, female and male. We've all kind of been in this middle section at some point in our lives. And some of us, unfortunately, stay in this little space. And then when we get into non-binary individuals, even intersex individuals, because they were literally born that way. People do not understand the idea of not wanting to be on one side or the other. They believe that you have to choose. You must choose what side you go to. And because they base these stereotypes very tightly with cis-passing people, they do the exact same with trans people. And because they judge every part of you, they say, this shouldn't be here, this right here, this isn't the ideal feminine body for them. They'll look down here, they'll make sure you got the right set here based on what they see. People pick apart everything that you are as a trans person. It's just fact. We live with that shit. And I know that there's so much more about passing culture that I want to talk about. I also didn't want to frisk on all the details, and I wanted to make sure every point got across. But I also want to make sure that all my videos are to the point. So if you haven't already done so, click that follow button or the subscribe button if you're on YouTube. If this was your first time meeting me, hi, my name is Andrea, and it was wonderful meeting you. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of your day. Keep it casually authentic. Love, Andrea.